Lee, how are you?
So welcome everyone. Thanks for taking part. As you know, we've been hosting these monthly women's events in order to unite and inspire the women in our industry, or women who are thinking about coming into our industry, or even gentlemen who are in our industry who want to be inspired by women. So it's a very interactive group. We hope that the conversation tonight leaves you with a little inspiration, maybe a little nugget of relatable experience that you can move forward with. I'm joined here by my amazing, significant colleague, Rochelle, who's the development director for MBDA. You want to drop a couple lines in about the recording tonight and stuff like that, Rochelle?
Yeah. So just something a little different. I'm Rochelle, Scout and Development Director at the MBDA. We don't usually record these, so if you've been on it before, just so you know, we're recording this one just because we have a lot of people apparently watching football that couldn't make it live, and so they want to watch it afterwards. So we will be recording it and sending it out afterwards. So if you need to leave early, no worries. Also, we love interacting with each other. So, you know, leave all questions, Mercedes was saying, until, you know, about her and about her presentation at the end. But if you have comments, please type them in and we'll be happy to talk with you. Also, we have a Facebook group for women in the bicycle industry. So if you didn't know that, we would love to have you there. And I think that's it.
Awesome. So tonight's guest, in the past, we've been doing more conversational topics, but I had the fortune of meeting Mercedes Ross recently. And I was like, Mercedes, you have to come on and share with our group of women about your path in the industry. So Mercedes is voted one of the top 50 influential businesswomen in the bike industry. I mean, she's done nearly everything. Currently, she's the executive director of Project Bike Tech. It's an amazing nonprofit that uses bicycle education as a conduit to teach students core academics, create career opportunities, and inspire them to be passionate about bicycles and hopefully in a career in the bicycle industry. Mercedes worked in the ski, outdoor, motorcycle, scuba, craft brewing industries. She's owned her own motorcycle retail store for, I think, 15 years. She's led countless sales team training seminars, and she's been a featured speaker in many industry trade shows. Tonight, she's going to share with us her path, and she'll answer any questions you may have at the end. And we're hopeful that her path will just add to the collective voice of the women in the bicycle industry. And recently she came on Bicycle Retail Radio with me, and we had an amazing talk. So I want to just warmly introduce Mercedes. Mercedes, thank you for joining us.
Oh, thank you so much. And the radio broadcast, actually, a lot of retailers have called about Project Bike Tech. So thank you so much. That worked out really great. We got the word out there.
I don't know, sometimes I'll listen back to episodes. I don't always, but I listened back to ours and I was like, all right, you have to be inspired to call Mercedes after this, because it's so easy to get a Project Bike Tech started. You just have to, you know, have the desire and hop on a call with you. But Rochelle and I are thrilled to have you share your story here tonight. And I don't know, I think we'll just jump right in if that's okay with you.
Oh, totally. You know, like everybody here, being a woman in our industry is always interesting. And I've been here for a long time. I'm what's called a veteran. That's always scary, right? You know, when you become a veteran, you know, you've been around a long time. But my story is just like everybody else's. You know, I love bicycles, and I came into it kind of sideways. So I'd love to share my screen as I have some pictures and some student pictures and stuff, and I'd love to do that. So if I can share my screen, that would be great. So why don't we do that? And I'm going to share my screen. Can you see that? Can you see the screen?
Yes.
Awesome. Well, like Heather said, and thank you so much for having me come into this. I started very differently than everybody else. My parents were immigrants from Austria. They started a ski area. And so my first sport was skiing, and it's still a big part of my life. But you're probably wondering how I went from that and yodeling and being in Austria and Vermont to cycling. Well, the culprit is my ex-husband, Scott Ross, who was on the US cycling team. I met this long, lanky bicycle racer and fell in love with him. And he was at that time a specialized rep, right? And so I moved from Vermont to Colorado and started visiting the bicycle shops with Scott. You know, he was a rep. And so as I went into those stores, I was, you know, from the ski industry, and I was just amazed that these stores were just the way they were. And so I started taking Scott's specialized product and I started creating these walls when he was in talking to the owner. I'd start taking all his specialized product and I'd put it into one space. So what you see here is a really foggy picture. It's the only one I could find of the first original specialized concept wall. And I made those POP myself, and I created, you know, the idea of putting all of Scott's product in one place. And this was back when that didn't happen at all. And so the owner and Scott came out and they're like, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, you know, I just have this idea. Why don't you see, you know, leave it up, and if it doesn't work, we'll take it down." Well, 2 weeks later, that particular bicycle shop called Scott up, and he said, "Oh my God, reorder everything that was on that wall. It's all gone." And so Scott looks at me and he goes, "Why don't you do that for all my shops?" So because I didn't have a job, I was in the ski industry, and at that point, the ski industry wasn't doing well. I started creating concept walls in every single one of Scott's shops. And at the end of the year, Scott won second best rep of the year, you know, because his territory went from 1 million to 3 million. And Mike Sinyard was like, "Scott, what are you doing out there in Colorado?" And Scott's like, "My girlfriend's merchandising." And so, lo and behold, Mike Sinyard had me fly out to Specialized, and I was all excited. I thought I'd get a job with Specialized, and he and I had a great talk. And at the end of the talk, I was like, you know, I thought he'd offer me a job. He's like, "Mercedes, this is such a great idea. Thanks so much." And I'm like, he goes, "Mercedes, you're an entrepreneur. And if I hire you, you and I will last maybe 6 months. You need to go home and start your own business, and then I'll hire you." And so I'm like, okay, I don't know how to start a business, but you know, so that's what I did. I went home and I flew home and started my merchandising business, which was called Merchandising Works, because I knew that merchandising worked, right? And thanks to Mike Sinyard, I'm always thankful to him that he saw that I was an entrepreneur and I wasn't going to be able to be under anybody's tutelage. You know, I basically had to start my own business. And so that's what I did. I started my own business in the bicycle industry, and it grew huge. By the time I was full-blown Merchandising Works, I was doing store design, merchandising seminars, trade show booths. I was writing articles. I was doing branding, apparel design, and point of purchase. And so what we did, and I want to say the whole bicycle industry as a whole, had made a huge change. We went from this, which we all know is what bicycle shops used to look like, to this. And I feel really proud that I was in the beginnings of that. And I think all the companies really had a big part of that. Giant, Trek, Specialized really raised the bar with the bicycle shops and started to contribute to them having a better business base, better business platform. And so obviously clothing departments went from looking like this to looking like clothing departments and selling more product. And so retailers obviously became much more profitable. And in my seminars, you know, I was always, I was not very nice sometimes to retailers, but I always got the point across, you know, and acknowledging that retailers are so busy. And what, what the retailer's really thinking, life is short, buy the damn bicycle, when some person's on the phone. But they did listen, and a lot of shops made huge impacts. They completely changed how they merchandised. And, we always looked at how come the bicycle industry was so different than what the consumer was used to. And so just on that premise, the industry really started picking up, and we did, lots of articles, and lots of retailers saw an incredible increase in sales, and it made a huge difference in their business. And so things were just rolling along great, and then all of a sudden there was a big hiccup. This is me in the middle of chemotherapy with my husband wearing my wig because I refused to wear a wig. And so I really had to step down from the bicycle industry and get back to health. And kind of stepped aside and handed the reins over to Holly Weiss, who's got, her wonderful design company. And she kind of took over the reins in design and started merchandising stores. And I just really left the bicycle industry, sadly. But after a while, my husband said, "Hey, why don't we open a motorcycle shop?" And I'm like, after walking through the halls of death, and coming back out, I'm like, sure, why not? Not having any clue what it was like to A, really run a store, B, be in a completely different industry, and C, just be a retailer. And so my ex-husband and I had a very successful motorcycle shop. And what that did is I really learned so much about retail, and I learned how many hats all you retailers wear. And so I was very much a big part of the motorcycle industry. We were a custom bike shop. You see me here on a bike that I built for women, and it was a lighter bike, and it did all kinds of things that the big heavy men's bikes didn't do. But we just had a really successful motorcycle shop, and had a great run with that. And in 2008, when the bottom dropped out of the market, Holly called me up and she said, "Mercedes, you need to come back to the bicycle industry." And at that point, she was working with Giant on store design. And so I said, "Great, I'll come back in the bicycle industry, but you have to tell me what to do, because I'm tired of telling everybody what to do. Just, send me somewhere and tell me what to do, and I'll do it." Well, that was a very fortunate thing, because what happened is I met someone in the Giant family, and her name was Barry Michelle. Barry has a beautiful shop out in Santa Cruz, California, and it's called the Bicycle Trip. And Barry and I redesigned a carpet store, and that was a long process. And Barry and I became very good friends through that process. And Barry had this amazing nonprofit. Back then, it was called Project Bicycle Trip, and it was in 5 schools in Santa Cruz. And she had done the amazing thing, which is bring bike tech into high schools. And so I got on the board of directors, and really enjoyed that. But I was still running Merchandising Works, and so I was kind of doing both. And at one point we lost our executive director, and so I thought to myself, I'd like to do something more. This industry has done so much for me. I'd like to give back. And how can I give back? And what's my door number 3? And, what am I going to do now? I've told everybody how to merchandise their stores. They all know what they're doing. They don't need me anymore. And so I decided with Barry that I should become the executive director of Project Bike Tech. And I'm so proud of what we've done. Oh my goodness. It's been a long 5 or 6 years. I came from, hanging up socks to all of a sudden being in a nonprofit and not knowing anything about the education system. And so, in my last hurrah, I really felt like we need to do this. Our industry so needs employees. That was always something that was so very much vivid when I was there, that there wasn't enough employees. And so So what came out of that is I continued what Barry's done already for 15 years. And we jumped on board with Project Bike Tech. And I want you to know it's the best part of a student's day in school, right? And people always ask me, what is Project Bike Tech and how come I should be involved? Well, it is the best day in is the best day of students in school. And Project Bike Tech, we're so proud of it, is this. It's an incredible laboratory. It goes into high schools, and it's in the junior and senior year of high school. So guess what? We're producing employees for the retail business and the bicycle industry and the outdoor industry. And these rooms are amazing. And obviously after about 15 years, they start looking like more like a bike shop. And I think we have some old giant POP in here and a Le Mans banner and just, this is what they look like. But this room was one of the original rooms that Barry had developed. And as you can see, it gets quite eclectic. But it's just making such an impact. And we're a small nonprofit, just like the MBDA, but we're really having an impact in the schools that we're in the regions that we're in, and for those retailers and the industry that the classrooms are in. What's so neat about it is it gives the student a certificate. In a lot of areas, we have college credit as well, which is exciting, but it's pretty simple. It's a turnkey room for a school to have. It's a 2-year program, like I said. It's a dedicated classroom, tools, supplies, new bikes, a one-of-a-kind certificate. It's supported by bike retailers, which is really important. The bike retailers actually introduce us to the high schools, and because they're in the community, they're selling the principal and the teachers' bikes and the students' bikes already. And wouldn't it be great to have a room like this in their backyard? So some of our classes are really successful. As you can see here, this is a school that has 5 classes. 5 classes go through the classroom a week. So in this particular case, that was 150 students that teacher is teaching. So just a big turnout. But it's everything you could ever want as a student or a teacher. It's all the tools, brand new bikes, brand new helmets, the bikes we get that are fresh out of the box. And we also get a lot of used bikes as well. But I'm sure you can imagine that over the last years, it's been difficult to teach an experiential class with COVID and everything, but our schools have done an amazing job. And students have been able to go into the lab and be a part of this. And, obviously our teachers are just such an amazing group of mostly ex-mechanics that have decided to become teachers, and just wonderful humans out there working on getting this program out there. But, what I really want you to hear is this student who probably wouldn't go to school normally and how it's affected him. And I'm going to let Angel speak for himself.
Yeah, I've gotten on more, to more events, and just talking to people about bikes and stuff. And I didn't used to do that before. I came to school just because I had to. But bikes, I don't know, it changed me. My high school life.
That's cool. So you think it's helped you stay a little bit more engaged with school?
Yeah.
Cool. That's awesome. Cool. Thanks, Angel. Thanks for your time.
So we affect everybody from non-bike riders to bike riders. Some of these students don't ride a bike when they come to our class, but they end up doing a field trip or being out on their bikes on a regular basis. We encourage them to go to field trips. This is a class that went down to the Yeti manufacturing site in Golden. And then obviously we couldn't do it without you, without the retailers, without the sponsors, all our vendors. founders that help us create this program. And we share too. We also share these rooms with other nonprofits. So when the high school isn't using them, other nonprofits can use them. And Barry can attest to this, the founders with us today, that the city of San Francisco, Santa Cruz uses the room as a earn a bike program for people that are less fortunate and can't afford a bike. They utilize the room for that person. But generally, what you need to hear is that these students, in this one in particular, and I'm going to let Adrian speak for himself, come to the class and it really changes their life. It changes their life in a lot of different ways. But I'm going to let Adrian tell us how it changed his life. So I was at, just to let you know, I was at Sea Otter, and this young man taps me on the shoulder and he goes, "Mercedes, I was in the program before you were on board, but please don't stop having the program. It really changed my life. You know, I didn't have a direction, and now he does."
Hi, this is Mercedes with Project Bike Tech, and who are we talking to?
My name is Adrian Nunez. I'm a Snap-on assistant now. I did the class Project Bike Tech a few years back. I graduated with my year 2, and this is my bike that I built at when I was a student. And I actually got this bike for free, and it was great. And I loved the program. It really changed my life, and I'm out here representing Snap-on tools.
Great. Well, thank you so much. We're so proud of you.
Thank you, Mercedes.
You're doing a great job. And we'll be in touch, okay?
Of course.
Keep doing all the good job.
Bye-bye.
So that was about, I don't know, about 5 years ago. And I was walking in the parking lot in a town, and I see this Snap-on truck across the way. And I went over, and oh my goodness, this young man has made such an impact. Sorry. But, you know, we made such an impact on him. And what you need to know is he never rode a bike before, and he even did a climate ride. And so, you know, oh my goodness, we have such a chance to change lives with bicycles and with what we're doing and getting people on bikes. So whenever you see us out there in our kits or in a tent, we're at an event here, we're at the Kelly Brush Ride or at the Triple Bypass. We put up tents and we fix people's bikes. Support us and help us introduce these wonderful students to the amazing career you can have in the bicycle industry. We change lives daily, and you know, it chokes me up because the students are why we're doing this, and the bicycle industry gave me such an amazing life. And I'd like to introduce that to all the wonderful young people out there, that we have an amazing industry to come into, right? So that was my trajectory and what I'm doing now in my third door. And I hope that everybody can help me spread the word about Project Bike Tech and let me know how you started in the industry. You know, what we do is we have videos and career stories on our website about people that are in the industry and how they got there and why they're there, so that students can see what the career paths are and that there is an amazing amount of opportunity out there for them. And you know, especially the young girls that we actually have anywhere from 3 to 5 girls in a 20 person class. Always have female students in the classes. So we're definitely having an effect on that population. So I'm open to any questions. Thank you for listening.
Mercedes, what a fabulous story. I have goosebumps right now. It's so true that bicycles change our lives, right? And your story is just, I mean, your career path. Oh my gosh. I'm sure that we have some questions. Anyone have any questions to start?
Hi, Bill.
I'd like to say thank you. That was a wonderful presentation, and I learned things about Mercedes I never knew before. Even what Scott looked like, other than when I met him at the trade show once. Our shop has hired many of our interns that have been from the class, and it's really helped fill our store because Santa Cruz has a lot of bike shops in it, so we have trouble getting staff just like everywhere now. but we always have. So we've hired, I guess we have 4 or 5 of them working for us at this moment. One of them had been there for 4 years, I think now. And one guy, he was there with us for 7 years when he started at the first classroom. He ended up working for us for 7 years. He was the top mechanic by the end, and the solar industry stole him away.
Oh. Well, we do lose some of them to other industries, but you know, the main thing is first of all, it gets them on a bike, and second of all, they go home and they fix Sally's bike. It's broken in the garage, and they get mom and dad on their bike, and so it increases that family's bike population, and so it tends to have an effect overall in any community that the Project Bike Tech goes into. So that's super exciting, right? And from a retail standpoint and a vendor standpoint, it's just a really good way to come back into the community. This education system as a whole is needing experiential learning programs, and why not give them something to have in their back pocket for the rest of their lives, right? They can always fix their bike and come to work for us in the industry. And I don't know how many retailers are here. I don't know how many are you one retailer, 2 retailers. And then are the rest of you from vendors, or where are you? Like Robin, where are you from? I don't know where you're from or who you work with.
I feel like I crashed this meeting. I'm a management consultant, but my industry is industrial equipment. I've been doing that forever. We're a 45-year-old company, and I'm the succession plan, but I'm here for 2 reasons. And one is because it's a male industry, and I'm doing all kinds of work to bring all these women into the industry and help develop them and support them in a way that works. And I saw your ad and I thought, wow, I can learn from her, which I have. Thank you. But the second reason is that I'm really interested in working with this industry because I really like the vibe here. And after 5 minutes, I knew that I was in the right place. So thank you. Thank you.
Oh my God, we love Robin. Yay.
Yes,
Really?
yay.
We did have a question, and it was centered around, you know, what happens when these students complete the program, Mercedes? Is there a job fair or a resource like to get these new students who are educated now out into the field, and do some of them relocate?
Yes, so we're still, you know, the problem that we have is we're an in-school program, and so we're really not allowed, they're under 18. So we're not allowed to find out where they end up. But the answer to your question is yes, when they're done, they can do a couple of things: head off to college and, you know, do a career in engineering or something else that has to do with the technical aspect of what their interests are. The second thing they can do is, because of our program, they can enter into Barnett's Bicycle Institute or UBI, and they've already got the beginning stages of being a really good bike mechanic. And so they can come into Barnett's Bicycle Institute in level 2. So they basically have their level 1 done. And last but not least, from their junior year to their senior year, they can apprentice in any retail store. There's apprenticeship programs in every state, and they're all different. And what happens is you bring the student in and you're relieved of the liability of having an underage student working for you, because the state actually sometimes pays for the student to be an apprentice, or, you know, it basically is under an apprenticeship program. And then when they do graduate as a senior, yes, they're a great basic mechanic that, you know, in level 2, they learn a little bit more technical, but we also bring in business and entrepreneurship. And this year we're so excited. The retailers in the room will be excited that we have Lightspeed, which is the point of sale system that came on board. And so the students not only learn a point of sale system, but they learn the reports, and they learn why it's important to show up to work on time, and everything that goes with being a good employee. We kind of give the retailers and the vendors out there something that's a raw clay material that they can then train, that person has a lot more knowledge on board. And so we really send them out into the outdoor industry with a tremendous amount of pre-training and any retailer is going to tell you the cost of training an employee is humongous, and not having to do that is, oh my goodness, you're getting a step up on that employee when they do come into the field. So I would say, I've just been talking to all the schools that we actually have in the field. We're in 27 schools in 7 states, 10 states now, and a lot of them are in bike shops. A lot of them come straight out of our program and get placed into bike shops, and we're going to start having interviews with those retailers and students on our website, so you'll be able to hear for yourself. Go ahead, Barry.
They also go into manufacturers here because we have a number of those. But like Mercedes said, it's very hard to find them. We're trying to figure out how to find them and keep track
Our
of them.
alumni, yeah,
Because we like them. We love them. We'd like to know what happens. They graduate and go, yippee, and they're gone.
and then they're gone.
They're gone.
But,
I was one.
but
Jan, this is Jan. And Mercedes, I cannot wait to talk to you. I did hear your podcast, between you and Heather a week or so ago, but I'm excited. So I know there are resources available, like whether it's through Park Tool or Barnett's, they will have their graduates. And I know we have reached out on occasion to find out if there are graduates of whatever level, that would like to be put on this list to say, can we communicate with you? And so, maybe there starts to be this database of kids that are not taking the college route and going to pursue, being a skilled mechanic as their
Right.
career. And so, they can, when they graduate high school, they'll likely be beyond 18 years old.
Yep.
And so then they can make those decisions to be on that list or not. And then I would email them and say, would you like to move to Connecticut?
Right. Yeah. And we do present the seniors with those opportunities. Whether they take them up or not is up to them. And certainly when they do graduate, we graduated over 4,000 students. And I know we're having an impact on the bicycle industry. I just don't have any clear numbers. We're really trying to work with that. The Youth Cycling Coalition is putting together some metrics so that all the nonprofits that are getting young people on bikes have some kind of a measure as to how much of an effect they're having. So I don't know if you all know about the Youth Cycling Coalition, but it's a People for Bikes organization that 10 of us have come together, and we're really looking at how we can have an impact on youth cycling between all of us, between all 10 of us. So that's Trips for Kids, NICA, the Cycle, not the Cycle Effect, I'm sorry, Little Bella's, Free Bikes for Kids. And we're going into these pilot cities and going to have some kind of a metric as we move forward on how we're having an effect. Our first city is Morgantown, West Virginia. I think the second city is Charlotte, North Carolina, that we're going to start doing that. But really, we really need to look at how are we getting young people on bikes, case closed, and riding safely. So Safe Rides to School is part of our program as well. The League of American Bicyclists is part of our program. So we bring in those types of people that are making riding safe, because that's half the problem. And then the other half of the problem is the bikes are broken in the garage. And so that's where we come in. We teach them how to fix them. Go ahead, Barry.
I would like to add another benefit of doing bike tech is that all these students learn about what it is about bicycles. Even if they don't stay in bicycles, they're going to be more aware when they drive on the road around cyclists. So because they liked their class. So even if they don't take a lifelong bicycle route of, career, they still are different how they act when they come in the shop. They're more respectful because they understand it's not so easy to wrench on a bike. Actually, it takes
Right.
a little practice and a lot of learning to become a good mechanic, even to fix a flat tire.
Yep.
You go, oh, it's just a flat, and you're like, oh God. Oh yeah, one of those.
I do want to address the how many more women are in the bicycle industry now, which is just wonderful to see that. And you know, I think it's obviously a positive. And like I said, it's interesting that we get at least 3 or 4 young ladies that want to be in our class. So so we're definitely seeing, you know, an interest from I want to own a bike shop, you know, or I want to work for Specialized, or I want to work for Giant, you know. And so so you hear them talk about that. So there's definitely that out there. And I think that as a group, we can have a big impact on our industry. And I think we are already having a big impact.
Yeah, we are. And I wanted, you know, I was thinking about what Robin said, you know, in another industry, came tonight to join us, not crashing, adding to the party, awesomeness. And I'm thinking about, Mercedes, your story of just, you were with your boyfriend at the time and you were just like, I'm going to start merchandising this wall to keep yourself busy. And then next thing you know, you're at Specialized. Like, so someone who's maybe in another industry thinking about the bicycle industry, any tips or any advice you could speak to on that regard, Mercedes?
Well, that just was luck as I see it. That was just such luck. But you know, in my travels and as I was getting ready for this, I went into my file and looked at how many bicycle shops I worked with because I had files on every single bicycle shop in my computer, and there was over 400 bicycle shops that I'd come in contact with over the last 30 years. And not to mention all the vendors, you know, and, you know, Jolie Hershey, who's with Giant, Jolie, we had so much fun when we worked together. We were such trouble. Jolie came from REI, and tell us a little bit about your history, Jolie. You've got a incredible history. I mean, she started the REI stores in Japan and Abu Dhabi, and yeah, tell us a little bit about you.
It's that far flung, but sure. So my background is all about visual merchandising, and cycling is just something that I've always loved to do. And I worked for REI for 15 years, and I opened stores and did merchandising for them all over the country and in Japan. And I got to, you know, REI was the first place that I ever worked that I got to sort of marry my love of bicycles and my being a bike commuter with what I did for a living. And that was really fun and cool. And when my position there was eliminated and I had to look for something new, I was interviewing with a lot of different, you know, companies in the outdoor industry. And I thought I had my heart set on a very different kind of company. And my husband said, I think you should go to work for that bike company that you interviewed with, because that's your favorite thing to do in the outdoors. So why don't you just those are your people, go be with them. And I was like, aren't you smart? So I took the job with Giant, and my very first day, I got on a plane and I flew to Park City to help set up their largest event of the year, the new model year launch. And the very first person I met at the Salt Lake City airport was my friend Mercedes. And really, from that minute, we have been just fast friends, and I have so much admiration for her passion and energy, and she's so good at everything she does. Amazing and talented merchandiser, and somebody who understands retail as well as anyone I've ever met. And then, you know, making this pivot over to Project Bike Tech, which is such an amazing program, and couldn't have a better leader. It's just a joy to be in her orbit.
Thank you. Well, you know, and Jolie has done, I'm gonna give you accolades. She's done an amazing job with Giant and the retail the concept shop program at Giant, and just really took it from a tiny little seed to this amazing program there as well. So, but coming in from another industry, I will say I've battled two industries that are all male dominated, and the motorcycle industry was likewise, a daunting thing to come into, and really has shifted. The motorcycle industry has shifted just like the bicycle industry in accepting, the female piece much more. But when we started our shop, I had no clue what I was getting myself into. But so when I came back to the bicycle industry, I was like, oh my God, thank God, this is so much better. No offense. I was like, I'm with my people again. It was much better. So, but yeah, so it's always interesting to see how people have gotten into the bicycle industry. I love to hear stories. And like Heather, I don't even know, how did you get into the bicycle industry?
Well, I mean, I just fell in love with cycling. I fell in love with cycling. I went to school for culinary arts. I was going to open up a little cafe. I still might do it one day. But no, I just fell in love with cycling and got a job at a shop, and then just, continued forward. But I was going to say, I met the new VP of marketing for QBP yesterday, and she came from the running shoe industry, not a cyclist, but saw an opportunity, applied for it. And, and that's something that you don't need to be a cyclist. You don't need to be in the industry, to have a really profound effect. If you see a position that you're qualified for, I mean, go for it, because I think the bicycle industry is totally accepting of women. Like, as long as we can, I see anyone who can make a difference, people are accepting of. Anyone who has passion, who has an ability to see the future or ideas on how to shape the future, that's the people we want to hire, regardless of what sex we are. And I mean, Robin, I'm welcoming. I can't wait to see where you end up. You're in already on my book. So like, totally awesome. And I mean, Sherry's just making waves right now. Sherry is now a columnist writing, just because she put her mind to it. She's like, I want to do this. Right. And then here you are. Right. And how do you feel, Sherry? I mean, you're amazing. You got a job, a whole new gig going, right?
Yeah, well, my background's marketing communications, and I've been in the technology industry for 26 years, but just happened to fall into doing product reviews and articles for a publication about 6 years ago. And then Heather introduced me to somebody at Brain. So I'm doing a monthly article for them. But I've been riding for 30 some years. I have 7 bikes. I'm passionate about it. Started a blog in January. So Mercedes, I'd love to have you on my blog.
I'd love to. That would be great. And only 7 bikes. How many bikes does everybody have? It's a problem.
It's an addiction.
I know. People always come in my garage. They're like, really? You're one person. How come you have 12 bikes? I'm like, because, you have to have someone, people come, you have to have the bar bike, you have to have the road bike, you have to have the mountain bike, trail bike, you've got to have the long distance, luggage bike. You just have to have a bike for every situation.
Yes. And they all have names, right?
Absolutely.
I'm going to interject here. You don't have to be a super cyclist to do the bicycle industry either. I came in on a 3-speed and I never could make it up a hill. I still can't. But I somehow started a bike tech program. Yeah. And I had some family help with money, so that totally helped. And people in our town helped, but I didn't drive my car for like 10 years, and the rubber all got cracked and spewed water everywhere. I was just a commuter cyclist.
And look how much.
But I wouldn't say you're a cyclist still. It doesn't matter
it's still
what level.
In our industry though. I loved somebody at BLC from Giant. She said 2 miles, what did she say, Mercedes? 2 miles, 2 hours and 2 baskets, something like that. She would go do all her grocery shopping, but she wasn't a big cyclist, but she loved her bike. And that was me. I loved my bike.
It's important. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
So, but yeah, so my goodness, I'd love nothing more than to hear everybody's stories. And like I said, I'd love to have some career stories for, I'd love to do some interviews as well for our students, for our career stories and hear about, where everybody started and how come they're in the bicycle industry. And, you can do everything from being a journalist to a videographer to, a technician to design bikes to, oh my goodness, there's just so much out there.
Brain surgeons are using bicycles. Now at Stanford, they're doing, Therese told me this research where bicycles are helping people's brains sort back out to center. So like ADD and HDD, it helps with that, and dyslexia.
And brain injuries.
Oh yeah, brain injuries.
I had a massive brain injury 2 years ago, and if I didn't have my bike, I wouldn't have reconnected all those synapses. I was just talking to my doctors today, and they're like, it is proven that riding a bike, because you lose your balance and everything, that getting back on a bike is huge for people that have brain injuries. And so I will attest to that personally. And Outright is doing some amazing research on that and putting bikes into middle schools and seeing what the effect is on students and on kids that have dyslexia or are slow learning, and it has an effect on them.
Positive. They're working together, Stanford.
Well, also people with autism, they find cycling is excellent for that because of the rhythmic and not having to have eye contact.
Right. And as King said, if everybody would just ride a bike, we wouldn't have climate change.
Or wars, maybe. Oh, maybe.
Well, just going back
to in a car.
Just going back to Mercedes' story, and I love how you had the PowerPoint with the images. I mean, it makes me think of EFI. Does anyone know what EFI stands for? I was doing this ride from Salt Lake City to Vegas with Rebecca Rush and some other women in the industry, every fucking inch. All right. And your story, Mercedes, makes me think of EFI because not only did you kind of carve your own way, but you were hit with, we didn't even really talk about the cancer too much, but a lot of adversity along the way. And now you jump into running a non-for-profit, which you have to learn that. You have to learn the school systems. And you are the perfect person for the job because you keep showing up and you're determined and your energy is high and you're like EFI, like you're going to keep freaking rocking it no matter what. And now we know about a brain injury. I had no idea about this. So
yeah,
I'm on your team.
Skiing is just as dangerous as cycling sometimes. I got hit by a skier and it's been an interesting, poor Barry, an interesting travel back from that. But yes, but I wanted to say, I was talking to one of the head brain guys at Craig Hospital in Denver, and we were discussing how much cycling is positive for brain injuries, and they're just now starting that research. So, but thank you. Yes, every fucking inch.
Every fucking, and that's what we have to. That's what we have to do every day, right? We have to, and we have to have each. What it's neat about the cycling industry is I feel like we have each other's back. Like Sherry, you could ask me anything, I've got your back, and I know Mercedes, I could ask you anything, and you have my back because we're both all in it to collectively win it. And I opened up my email the other morning to Barry, sending me the most beautiful.
I couldn't believe who you were.
Ever.
I'm sorry I didn't check in earlier.
Robin.
I found you because you found Mercedes, I guess. I don't know. I kept reading all of your emails, like not all the way through, because what's that acronym you use that it's too long? I can't read it.
TLDR.
Like some kind of definition of an acronym. I looked it up and it was like too long to read, can't do it or something.
Yeah, too long. Didn't read it.
And I'm like, oh, that's me. So I'm like, what is this now?
It's funny.
I read really slow. So this is awesome. You guys meet every week or monthly?
Monthly.
I want to join in. It's so wonderful.
You're on the invite list. Robin, what do you?
Two things again. For some reason, everything's coming in twos tonight. One thing I wanted to share that's a little bit of an overlap with my industry is the shortage of repair technicians.
Right.
So I have a North American model and a European model where 50% of our dealership total employees are service technicians, they're repair technicians, because that's our biggest profit center. So one thing we've had to do over the decades is switch the culture from a culture of sales organization to a culture of a service organization. And so I think that's a strength that women have, is culture changes. And it takes at least a generation, sometimes more, to implement a really solid culture change. But I think that's sort of the direction we want to go in. So your issue with the technicians is not unique to your industry. In fact, we have very generous bounties, sometimes $2,000-$3,000 for a technician that brings in another technician to the dealership. That's just a little insight, one thing. But the second thing is, I also have a foundation called the Central Massachusetts Freedom Coalition, where I've done about 8 or 9 years of human trafficking advocacy. And I've written some local legislation. And a few years ago, I did a 500-mile walk through 5 states. I did it all at once. It took me 3.5 weeks. And I handed out information about trafficking and local problems. Do you have any organizations you know of in the bicycle industry that's also in that advocacy work? Because I'd love to connect with them too. So those are my 2 things.
I mean, yeah, there's actually some really interesting organizations out there, and sadly, off the top of my head, this is the brain injury. There's one woman that started up a women's, help me here, ladies, a women's bike team in Iraq or Iran. What's her name? She's amazing.
Oh, the Afghanistan? Do you mean
Afghanistan? I can't remember. She's really neat. I met her, but you know, just going against what normally would be those girls' possibilities, and starting a bicycle team, and just, you know, raising them up from complete and not able to ride bikes to being on a bicycle team. I'll remember, I'll go through my records and get her name for you, Robin. And I was wondering, Heather, can we share emails? Like, I have a couple of notes here. Everybody wants to get in touch, and I'd love to reach out to everybody. So if we could share emails, that would be great.
Yeah, Rochelle, will we send out an email maybe to see who's willing to share their emails, or how should we best do that?
Yeah, we can do that, definitely.
Perfect.
And you're more than welcome to send everybody my email. It's just director@projectbiketech.org. And you can contact me through the website. And again, you know, I love the stories. They're just so wonderful, and we love to hear them about, and any thoughts you might have, or if you have a high school in your backyard that needs a program.
Right.
So
Yes.
Mercedes, Jan here again.
Yes.
I will say you will be hearing from me, because I cannot wait to get this, as we've spoken maybe a week ago, I cannot wait to get this going in our community. And, you know, I am curious as to whether there are opportunities to do fewer benches, you know, more like less than 10, or is it just only able to be 10? But
yeah, I can go over all that with you. 10 is normal.
I'm waiting from from the school people to give me the confirmation of date. I told, you know, our IT director today that I'd be listening in on this, and I don't want to lose any momentum within our schools. And absolutely, your energy, you are the absolute right person to be able to keep this moving along. And
yes.
So
yeah. We'll get our energy, we'll get our industry on board.
And then I have to say, you know, Robin, I did recently, there was something, and I don't know what the organization was, but in Bicycle Retailer, trying to get Afghan women to, you know, to the States or to other countries. I don't remember if she had an organization or what that was, but that was recently in Bicycle Retailer as well.
Might be the same woman. That might be the same woman. Yeah, I can't remember her name, sadly.
Yeah,
I don't remember anybody's name.
Well, I mean, I think tonight, Mercedes, I can't thank you enough for sharing your story with everyone. And I think we, continue this conversation. I'm just going to drop the Facebook group into the chat so everyone can join the Facebook group, because that's another space that we can keep in contact with each other.
Yep.
And we did just have a couple people drop their email addresses into the chat as well. So yeah, so look at that there.
Right.
And we will be at CABDA. So anyone who's going to CABDA Midwest, Rochelle and I will be there, and we'll have a women's mingle opportunity each day. So would love to have you join in with that. If you're going to be there, just let us know.
You mean physically there?
Physically, yeah, that's going to be a physical one. Yeah, that's just next week. Yep.
Darn COVID.
I'm seeing in the notes that we have Elizabeth Hernandez is a class of 2012 PV High with Kirk alumni. Elizabeth,
are you on here, Elizabeth? Elizabeth?
Hi, Elizabeth. How are you? Thank you so much for joining. That's so great.
I miss you.
I was so happy when I saw you. I was like, oh my God, hi, Barry.
Sorry, everyone.
That's
I've been thinking about you so much.
So Elizabeth is now, who are you working with? Santa Cruz County? I can't remember.
So, hi, we haven't officially met, but yeah, I'm Elizabeth, and I was going to be a bike educator and program coordinator at Ecology Action, but last minute I got into grad school, so now I'm doing grad school over here at Sacramento State.
Good. That's awesome. That is wonderful. Let's stay in touch.
Yeah, of course. I just wanted to pop in and say hi and check this out, and I put my email in there, and yeah, really great work, everyone. I'm so proud of us women. I literally went to the bike shop today and I was like, oh, I need this and this tool. And they were looking at me like, wow, you actually know your stuff. And I'm just like, yeah,
You were a TA too for the class.
I love that. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that, Elizabeth, and I will be in touch.
Yeah, of course.
Oh my God, so many great people in attendance tonight. Thank you, Connie. Thank you, Jan, Barry, Bill, Sherry, Elizabeth, Robin, Rochelle, Mercedes. And what a fabulous conversation. I always leave these moments and I'm just like, I feel really good right now. We should all feel really good and just continue to do this. And I'm thankful and can't wait to see what happens with all the connections we've made tonight. So
great. Thank you, Heather, for being such a great cheerleader and rah. Keep doing the good work.
Everyone have a great evening. And Rochelle and I will follow up. Please check out the Facebook group, join us, and come back next month. We'll bring someone, I don't know who yet, but it'll be good. I promise.
Awesome.
Good night, everyone.
Thanks. Good night.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.